And welcome to Empire State Sports and the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. Your host tonight, Joey Realm, Dave Brellett, myself, Peter Goslaw, and our very special guest, two-time back-to-back Stanley Cup winner, the assistant coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Derek Lalonde. Welcome back, Coach.
That sounds even better than last time when we had this a year ago.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask the first question. Is it surreal, or is this one a little bit better than the first one, or...
This is a great question. It's probably more surreal now. It's just it feels like we won two different Stanley Cups. It's just the whole experience of the bubble, and then the whole emotion of just winning a Stanley Cup. And, that kind of sinks in like you've done it. And we knew we had a pretty good group coming back, but even the narrative for the guys was, a lot of people win one Stanley Cup. It's not a lot, but it's one Stanley Cup. But to win two and to do it back to back, especially in this cap era, you're talking special, legacy, a whole new level, and that has not sank in. It's been such an unbelievable run, and a lot different with the travel, the emotions of being in and out of cities, but the experience of having it at home and winning in front of our fans and my family being there. I'm still in that surreal moment for sure. I don't know if it will sink in anytime soon, but it's just been, I can't believe it. I honestly cannot believe it. It's been awesome.
Well, the upside of this is no bubble this year.
Yes.
So that must have been huge in your favor.
Yeah, it helped. I just think it helped with the guys too. It just, last year was such a mental drain, and just the whole season itself, the shortened season. I remember we literally had 12 3 games in 4 nights on our schedule. And in previous years, if we had one or two, we'd literally circle those one or two and plan around it. So it's just such a pound and a grind. I think it helps to be out of the bubble, and even though it's such a grind, kind of more back into a routine. But again, the experience of, I think, the guys with the family, and they end up being two extremely unique. Now I almost appreciated the bubble experience, where after we won that cup, we had the next 5 hours in the locker room, the next 15, 16 hours of just being with the 35 guys, which was neat in itself. This time around, it was an absolute circus in here. All of our pro scouts were here. Families and friends were here. People were sneaking in. I had friends here. It was an absolute blast in a different way, and experienced it with my family and my kids. They're in that age now where they know, they're 15, 13, and 10, and Pat Maroon and Alex Killorn were bad influences on my oldest. I literally had to keep an eye on them all night. So just experiences like that was an absolute blast.
So, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, Kisser. I mean, I was down there last week and watched Game 4 and Game 5 with my dad. And I know Game 4 was that's the day I came in. I was all decked out in Tampa hat, Tampa shirt, and wore it to the bar. And everybody there, for Florida being the place of the displaced Northern New Yorker, Northern Vermonter, Northern, Northeast or Canadians, nobody was wearing any Montreal gear or dared say go Habs, and everybody was giving me thumbs up for wearing Lightning gear. So I mean, you had it certainly felt like the whole state of Florida was behind you, and to be able to be there with my dad Game 5, you guys put it away Game 5, and him and I get to watch it. That was pretty special, pretty cool.
There was there was a buzz. There was certainly a build here last year. I think our fans appreciate it, and this is a very exciting fan base. But it kept growing, and I feel I think the fans felt a little cheated last year with not being able to experience it. There's just such that emotional up and down of being in the arena, the buzz around the arena, and kind of living the experience with us. Being cheated on that, I think to have that run again, no one felt cheated. It was funny. I was talking to our CEO when we were having our cup celebration here, and he said every game along the playoffs, from our first playoff game to whatever our 10th, 11th, 12th, they broke a record in every game with the revenue for the night, their gate that night. And there were some games in there we only had 10,000 people, and just people felt cheated last year. They didn't care. They were going to do whatever they could to be part of it, part of the experience, and they were paying insane amounts of dollars and money to be part of it. And there was an unbelievable buzz about it. To be able to do Game 7 at home and to beat the Islanders, just a remarkable game, and the buzz that was, and to have that Prince of Wales experience then, and then to win the Stanley Cup at home. We certainly, it was a deflating losing Game 4 in Montreal, especially the way we played. We felt we gave ourselves a really good chance to win. But in hindsight now, to be able to do it at home, you literally couldn't have scripted it any better. It was amazing.
Well, I'm sorry, David. A lot of us have talked offline. I've talked to other people too, Derek. We all agree that I think nothing to take away from my Habs, who shouldn't have been there to begin with. If you look back at midseason, there's no way they should have been even talked about. The real Stanley Cup, as far as I'm concerned, was you guys against the Islanders. I mean, that was one of the most exciting series that, and I'll tell you what, I stayed up every night and watched every second of it. I paid for it the next day, but I mean, that was the series. Can you explain? Do you feel that?
Yeah. First off, I'd be careful with your Canadian. That was I get it. They finished 18th, 20th, something crazy like 22nd, 23rd in the league in wins. But that was a well-constructed team. They had the top 4D that were big. They were a beast. They had a well-structured team. They probably deserved, in the end, they probably deserved to be there. And with that said, I think they ran out of gas a little bit. It's hard to play that way for 20-plus games in the playoffs, and we certainly benefited from it. But that Islander series, it felt we knew we were in one right from Game 1, where we told the guys what it's going to look like, how they're successful, how we're going to struggle if we don't manage our puck, and until you experience it. And we got smacked in the face. They had to feel it and understand it. But the one credit, and I give our guys, we had lost Game 4 in the Island. And it was an absolute, you talk about a playoff feel, that building, the arena, the makeup, the fact that we had to stay in a secret off-campus hotel because of the fan base and how crazy it is and how passionate they are. And then that crazy game where we're down 3-0 going to third, we get all the way back 3-2. McDonough makes the Spinorama play at the end. So we come out of there, it's 2-2. Now it's a best of 3. And it literally felt like a flip of a coin series. Both teams weren't going to give an inch. It was you knew you were in one. And the games ended so late. It was literally like we didn't get back to the hotel till 12:30, and we're sitting around as a staff and we're trying to be creative on our next message. We'll talk about structure, but when you start getting that deep into things, it's still always about will, heart, attitude. And we really spent a lot of time talking about attitude, but we wanted to paint the picture a little differently. Do we hit them with our sports psych coach? How do we approach this? We're in a best of 3 against a darn good team. And Ryan McDonough comes to us, probably about 1:30 in the morning. Coach just run winding and strategizing over a bottle of wine. That's what we do in the Never Go Hungry League. And McDonough's like, "Can I talk to you guys?" And we're like, "Of course." And he was almost in tears, talking about how special a group this is, how we have to win this cup with this group because they'll never be together again. Obviously, the reality of where the cap is, and where some of our guys are going to outprice themselves as UFAs. And he goes, I don't know if our guys are feeling it. He goes, I don't know if our guys understand what's at stake here. He's almost in tears, and it hit us as a staff. And we're like, well, there's the meeting tomorrow. You grab Stammer, you grab Hetty. You guys have a closed meeting, just you guys. And we went there. Funny story. So that wasn't so the next day was a travel day. So the next game day is the first time we see him, and we have a 10 o'clock meeting. In that 10 o'clock meeting, we'll talk about game plan, we knock out some of our structure. So we don't get to meet with the guys because they took that time just on their own. But we had an optional skate. And of course, we're coaches. We have to get our fingers on everything. So we just assumed everyone was going to come out and skate that morning. So we had a couple face-off walkthroughs. We were going to go through our OZP routes, typical coaches. We can't help ourselves. And 3 guys showed up for the morning skates. So obviously that was out. And then we won the game 8-0. So that just goes to show how inflated the reality of coaching is. And then we got the unbelievable overtime game in game 6 and win that in game 7. When you won that game 7 to go to a Stanley Cup, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime. It's a boyhood dream. But the sense of accomplishment and reward when we won that series, because it was so hard, it was certainly special.
So I'm gonna jump ahead to what I was going to talk about because you just brought it up. I have become a huge Ryan McDonough fan. Going back to last year when I watched the way he and Zach played together, you know, as a pair, and I think I mentioned it on one of our earlier shows. But then to watch him this year and just the leadership and he's an older player, and just his leadership and his determination. I can't say enough. I mean, I'm a huge fan of him.
Well, that's a great eye by you, Dave. And he is special. I know John Cooper, towards the end of the playoffs, any chance he got, he would talk about him, about Conn Smythe. Mm-hmm. And it was real, obviously, deserving, and Vasi and Cooch obviously could easily been. Brain Point could have easily been. But just the minutes he eats, he was a plus 18. Yeah. It wasn't a plus 18 in years. And to do that night in and night out versus their top players. And just think about the plays he made. Go back to game 1 of our very first playoff game against Florida. It's 4-4, 5-5 late. He eats a puck and then has the poise to spring point for a breakaway goal. We win that game. Game 7 in the shorthanded goal. It was him who picked off a pass. He poised, he waited, and he ends up getting the delay, looked off a couple guys, gets the shorthanded goal. The only goal in game 5. We literally, in our pre-scout, was if you can trap the strong side forward on the wall, the strong side D freeze the 2-on-1, shoulder check, walk the line, pass D to D, and attack the net. And he made that play. It started on the blue line.
Absolutely.
Just the amount of impact and plays he had. He's special, let alone all the pucks he eats and the way he defends. And I'm in charge of penalty kill. I'm in charge of the goalie pull.
Yep.
He's like my extra coach. We talk about it all the time. And he's almost an extension of us. And he just has so much care in those type of hard things that just don't get the recognition a lot of other things do. So special guy, and that's real, Dave. It's a good catch by you.
And I was in Florida for the game 7 against the Islanders, and I'm like, I'm in Florida.
Yes, in July.
But I found a bar and watched that game in a bar in where I was, and just nerve-wracking.
Yes.
Well, Well, Kisser, I guess my one thing is being the Islander fan was what was your thought when game 5, 8-0, up 2-0 in game 6, and Darren and I are texting saying, hey, it's been a valiant effort, but it's over. And then here they come and win that game, and then force just an unbelievable game 7 where you guys win on a shorthanded goal. And like Pete and Dave have already said, I mean, there wasn't anybody that wasn't sitting still during that game. Game 5 was dominant, but game 6, the guts they showed to come back, and then game 7, the both of you, that was just such great hockey. I mean, it was right from the get-go. And the goal that you got was an awesome shorthanded goal. Obviously, you concocted it because you're king of the penalty kill. So, but talk about that little stretch of game 6, game 7, where all of a sudden you're up 2-0, and I know you're not thinking it's over, but all of a sudden it's 2-0. We've scored the last 10 goals. It's looking good, and all of a sudden, boom, we're scraping on game 7 to win this thing.
Yeah, well, game 5 was a one-off. That was just literally just one of those things. Even analytically, it didn't come back like we should have won like that. It's literally everything went in. It was just one of those nights where the puck was literally bouncing our way. I think game 6, I know you have a 2-0 lead, but we weren't dictating the game like that by any means. Then it goes 2-1, then it goes 2-2. And then even in overtime, if you look at that 63 minutes of the game, it was literally a 50-50 type game. It's just probably the way the game would we've loved to get a third goal to extend that lead for sure, but that's them, and that's the character of them, and that's why it was so rewarding to get by them. You were not going to give an inch, and it's just interesting. Like, we have to play the first 2 series on the road. Florida is a really good team, and people forget Carolina. They might have been a cup favorite. They won our division. The depth they have top to bottom, and that was a heck of a series too. So I think we felt very battle tested to get to that point. But the Islander series, we felt that was going to look like that from the get-go, and through the blowout in game 5 into game 6, nothing really changed. We stuck to our task, we stuck to our process, and feel very fortunate that we ended up getting that win. And I think we did deserve. I know it was only 1-0, but I do feel we deserved what we got with that game 7 with our performance that day. It was just a remarkable series. Trust me, I thought of you and Willie. Still concerned. I'm like, God, I think they might be rooting for the Islanders. I just some bad juju going on. I was thinking of the whole time. So, but apparently, you guys, you had a little bit of time for me in your heart, because hey, the hockey gods. That's true. Karma, hockey god. That's a reality.
Oh, you didn't pay the bill? You didn't pay the bill?
Clap on,
No,
clap on.
Clap on.
That's one of those motion things.
You're shutting the lights out on us. Budget thing.
There you go.
We're the ones going through storms here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And actually, after game 5 in that series, Joey and I talked about, having a blowout 8-0, that there was a really good chance that you weren't going to win game 6.
Yes, of course. Sure. Especially a team like that.
You see it time and time again. I mean, and you get a blowout one night, and then the next night, it's a whole, even during a regular season series,
100%. I was actually really impressed with our group and how we came out with game 6. And that's been us, the character, the resolve. We knew we'd get their best, and we did. And we were still midway through that game, sitting there with a 2-0 lead. It's a credit to our guys and the gamers, and they always step up.
I mean, we've all been watching sports all our lives, and all the different sports. Doesn't mean even need to be hockey.
Right.
Watching that, I never felt that after, and this is not an Islander fan, this is just somebody that had dove into that series and seen enough of what was going on with both teams. I never felt that. I just felt like the Islanders are not going to just fade away. It would have been so easy. And how many times have you seen somebody now all of a sudden it's, they're down 3-2 in the game that got it to 3-2 was a blowout like you had, and they mail it in. There was no mailing it in. You just knew that they were coming out, and they did.
No, that was a special group, and you being an Islander fan, it was so real when they had lost their disappointment, and we've been fortunate enough to win 8 straight series now. I'm experiencing what it looks to end a team season, an individual season, and there's always that level of disappointment. But this Islander one, it was a whole new level. One, I really think they felt they could win the Stanley Cup, and they could have. I think they were even looking at that matchup with the Montreal, and it would have favored them. It would have been hard, but it certainly would have favored them. Just a couple of personal experiences. I recruited Scott Mayfield to Denver. Unfortunately, I had left to begin my head coaching career before he showed up, but we still have a really good relationship. We have a bond there. I've gotten to know Andy Green over the last few years, and those guys were crushed, and it was real. And actually, Andy Green started tearing up on my shoulder, and to see their disappointment, and even to see Barzal, he was crying in the presser. That was real because it was such a draining series, and it's so close. And again, it probably puts into perspective how fortunate I feel not to do this once, actually to do it twice. It's stuff like that makes it special.
I can't imagine the emotions that were on the ice or in the bench. I'm sure I can speak for the other two guys. I had a tough time winding down to go to sleep at night off that series. So I can't imagine the emotions that were going on, in the locker room and on the bench that night. It had to be phenomenal.
Yes, and those are real. Those emotions are real, and I understand the 8 o'clock game, but the 8:20, the 8:30 stars, man, it crushes you as a hockey coach, and you're turning your system and structure around. The differences in the bubble. We were on the West Coast or the mountain time in the bubble in Edmonton. We'd start 6 o'clock. So our games would be over by 8:30. I would have 2 periods broken down, maybe the whole game, and be to bed by 1 o'clock or whatever, turn around next morning, meetings. There's times I didn't literally open my computer until 1 a.m, and we're turning around structure the next day. We're no different than you guys. The adrenaline, the emotions, it's reality. That's why it's hard to win, and that's why it's very draining, the playoff run.
So let me jump way ahead and tell you that I've been listening to NHL Network on XM radio, and they had a thing the other day. Are we going to see a 3-time in a row champion in the NHL anytime in the next, I think they said in the next 10 or 20 years? And the number of people that were calling in and saying yes, and it's going to be Tampa. Well, of course, they all were calling from Tampa. But explain how, incredibly difficult it is to win 2 in a row, and then where why it's so unlikely to win 3 nowadays.
It's interesting. I was biking the other day, and I had the NHL Sirius radio on, and Ray Ferraro was on there, and he was asked that question.
Yeah.
Can the Tampa Bay Lightning win 3? And he goes, no, because it's impossible to win 2 in a row.
Right.
He goes, I knew they had a chance, but it just doesn't work out that way. So many things have to go your way. Staying healthy, an injury here, an injury there, a matchup with opponent. So obviously the numbers are against it, and we don't operate like that. We honestly, you would have told us, are we going to win 2 in a row? We would have been like, it's extremely difficult. We're going to do the best we're going to do to put ourselves in that situation, and we'll be in the same scenario next year. Reality of the salary cap, the fact that our unrestricted free agents, the Gaudreaus, the Barclays, Gaudreau, Coleman's, they're just going to price themselves out of what we can afford. Points coming up in a year. It's just a reality. That's why people don't win. This is built on parity, and that's why it's even more rewarding that we were able to do it back to back. And the exciting thing is, and even a couple of our pro meetings the last few days here, and trying to put the puzzle together, what's going to look going forward. We feel very fortunate that we're still going to have a nucleus that's going to make us competitive going forward. So it's going to be fun, and as a coach, we can't wait for just another opportunity with a good team.
So explain, and I hope it's not too technical, but so there's a lot of talk about how you won this by manipulating the salary cap. Now, I understand how it works, but I think there's a lot of people out there and they're saying, that you're above the salary cap, so it shouldn't,
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Dave. And it's technical. Like, I don't even though I live in it and we literally have a capologist, we talk, I'm in the same boat. This is kind of the nuts and bolts to it. So during the regular season, you're allowed an $81 million salary cap. And then once the regular season's over, there is no salary cap.
Right.
So where we were fortunate, and people don't understand, is we probably truly weren't 18 million over. The Islanders, in fact, were high over. They were like, if technically with Anders Lee, I mean, they were double digits. They were approaching our number of being over the cap. The final 4 teams that made the final 4 were all over the cap. Technically, they were all over 81. So it's a narrative. I'm not going to say ignorant fan. The average fan just doesn't know. For us, they got a lot of publicity because we had a superstar, almost $10 million.
Right.
So you take Cooch's money, and then that was real. He literally had probably may even came back. If game 1 was a regular season game, he wouldn't have played. He probably still. We got a little bit fortunate that the season moved back about another week because of the COVIDs. The North Division had to catch up. But he gutted it through, and we even had some issues of overuse. We even had the doctor being like, it's hard not to play him. It was like we had an 18-minute night because we had a lot of special teams. The doctor comes in like, this isn't sustainable. Like, you've got to be careful. So there was a lot that going on. So he didn't play a regular season game. So there's his 9.5 on it. We traded for Gaborick's salary. So it's dead money that's on the cap. We traded for Lindback's salary, which is dead money on the cap. Technically, our buyouts, I think Vinny LeCavier is still on our cap. So then Stammer goes down before the season ends. He ends up going on long-term IR. So it gave us the opportunity to add Savard's money too. So now you put Savard, and so technically during the season, we were well under the cap. But those guys, technically, when the season ended up being the famous, whatever, 18 million. It's funny. I'm still waiting for the article on how we won the Stanley Cup being 10 million under the cap the previous year without having Stamkos. And no one seemed to worry about the cap when we were under it, grinding out our regular season, having to play our first 2 rounds of the playoffs on the road because we didn't have the best player on our team. So I understand the narrative. I understand the average fan that really doesn't know, they just look at 18 million, that's 6-7 players, when in reality, and you talk about, it is good management. You've got to give the Islanders credit. They have an injury, Anders Lee, and then they go out and get 2 unbelievable pieces, Zajac and who's 21, Joe, our guy? Palmieri, and those guys, that third line in the hockey set, they were ball players. So it was interesting. They were like approaching our number 2, but it's just funny how no one says anything about it. But that's just the reality of it. And I know our guys kind of rally. I know Cooch had the maybe a little much for some, but they were throwing around and wearing the 18 million over the cap T-shirts at our boat parade there. So great question. Hope that helps out the average fan back home on how the cap works. And
I think so.
So I got to follow up to that, Derek. You said you had an excellent nucleus coming back next year, but how many free agents, I should say, or open-end contracts do you have coming up that you guys might have to spill over into?
Well, the big ones are Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman. And really, I still go back to that day that we traded for those two. I still remember the meeting in Los Angeles. Julian Breezewell, our general manager, calls us in for a meeting. We knew it was going to be about the trade deadline and getting our ducks in order. And again, I was off the air talking with Joe. We had the meeting. Hey, we're coaches. We want everyone. And we don't want to hear about it. We want every player, every asset. And they're playing for the long term. Obviously, that's why there's that separation between coaching management. But we sat in that meeting, and it was really impressive by Julian. He basically starts it with, we are going to make a move. We are going to make a big move or two. We didn't make a move last year. I feel like I let you down. I think we have one of the best teams in the league, and we're not going to let this. Let's talk. What do we need? And we had our ducks in order, and they were thinking the same thing. We wanted depth pieces. We had enough skill and talent. We wanted some grit. We wanted to build a third line. And the names, but they made it very clear too, we're not going to get a rental last year. I want 2-year guys. I want affordable guys. I want value in these guys. And in that meeting, it came to Barclay Goodrow, who was making $800,000 for the next 2 years. And Blake Coleman, I don't know his exact cap hit, but it's a 1 point. They're both ridiculously underpaid, but we'd have them for 2 years. And everything, and there was other names. It's funny. We won the cup. We went for the notes of that meeting the other day after the Stanley Cup. It was just really neat to see and what we talked about in those two particular players. And then a huge credit for Julian to go out and get those guys. And I know he took a lot of heat at the time. You know, Barclay Goodrow, no one knew who he was, and we gave a first rounder for him. You know, Blake Coleman, a little more common name, but his vision of we were going to have these pieces for 2 years. So the biggest thing for them is they're both unrestricted free agents, can sign with the other 31 teams for whatever price and ever term. And we expose their value and how gritty and they are. They're going to make big bank and term, which they should. And I'm so happy for those guys. And we're already at the cap. So it's those. And then we're probably going to have to shed 1 to 2 more salaries. It's a huge jigsaw puzzle. And we'll see how that plays out. The Seattle expansion thing will give a life of itself of how that's going to play out. But though we have some work to do, and it's understandable, everyone gets to hear if you know the recent term of what the Blackhawks had to go through. They were always up to the cap and having to give up some of their star core players. What Pittsburgh went through, it's the reality of the cap, and it's our turn to pay the piper. And we're going to do that. But the good thing is we still have a nucleus. Cirelli, the Brain Points, Kucherov, our left shot D, Sergachev, Hedman, Chernak has turned into a really big piece. McDonough we talked about, and we have Vasi. So it's going to be interesting how it unfolds. It's going to be hard for me, and I as a coach, I literally become very emotionally attached to these guys. Not only you work on them every day, you win with them. And there's some special relationships there. So this is going to be an interesting next 3 to 4 weeks that it's going to be maybe a little tough to watch. But again, whatever team they give us, and they've proven themselves to do things very wisely, we'll get the best out of it when that time comes.
So to lighten it up a little bit, I once again for 2 years in a row now you've blown that superstition out of the water of what I see somewhere hashtag team touch versus hashtag team no touch as far as the Campbell Bowl and the Prince of Wales Trophy.
It's become tradition. So last year, I remember I was literally right there in the bubble, and it happened so quick. And now at that time, and we were more concerned because you don't even talk about what you do after. It literally has to happen on the spot.
Right.
And Hetty goes to coach, and first of all, it was different, and it was such a unique experience in the bubble, and we didn't have our captain. So everyone, Stamkos goes, he was hurt, not playing. So it was all of our assistant captains. And Hedman goes to Coop. He's standing next to me. He's like, what do we do? And then Coop kind of sits there for a second. He's like, you get all over that thing. He's like, we want, and he's like, you might even use a derogatory locker room kind of describing it on how he's going to handle it. But he said, and now it became, and that was our tradition. So we went over the top that time.
Uh-huh.
If you remember the picture, there was hands everywhere. They're grabbing it. And so it happened briefly this time. And actually, one of our leadership course suggested not touching this year. And we were all like, no, are you nuts? And not only we touch it, we paraded around. It was about the fans. We actually paraded around like the cup.
Yeah.
For the fans, which was awesome. So I love that now that I got to experience it a little bit of the touch and non-touch. And then in 2015, the year we lost the cup to the Blackhawks, we didn't touch it. So we've got our playbook for sure dialed in on what happens if we're fortunate enough to win a conference championship.
Yeah. As soon as they brought the trophy out and set it on the table and the guy skated up to it, I'm watching, and first thing they did was they just reached right out and put their hands on it.
Yes. That's a great tradition. That's a pretty neat thing. I think
I
Montreal didn't touch that. It's interesting. No. They originally weren't going to give out the Prince of Wales, or I don't know if they weren't originally, but they originally weren't going to give out because we obviously didn't have conferences.
Right.
And I think they were maybe just seeing what would happen. Maybe if it was a perfect alignment of, let's say it would have been Winnipeg, that would have been a true East-West. It could have, but we were selfishly wanted to crack at the Western Conference, the Campbell Conference, because we were historic. We would have won all 3 trophies in 10 months. And I think what was kind of neat was the Canadians, who have like 25 of every trophy's ever made in the history of hockey, but I don't think they've ever won that one. So it's kind of neat for the hockey historian that they won that trophy. It actually looked pretty neat in their trophy case.
All right, Kisser, I got 2 more in the moment questions, and then let's start talking Stanley Cup parties. But I wanted to know, and actually I had one question, but you brought up something really cool that I got to ask. First one, we talked about in one of our previous shows, preparation, playing in a one division all year and playing Carolina and Florida 7 times, preparing probably wasn't as difficult. Then you get the Islanders, the team that you faced last year in the bubble. How helpful was it for you, though, to get Montreal over Las Vegas, because Montreal is a normal division foe of yours?
No, a great question, because the first 2 opponents in Florida and Carolina, it was nauseating how much we knew each other, which is, and vice versa, which is fine. It did make it easy on the scout and the pre-scout. The Islanders were a lucky break, not a lucky break because it was one heck of a team. It was a lucky break that we literally just went through an Eastern Conference championship with them, and they're the same team. Their success, they're a very predictable team. They're well coached, their structure, they're as predictable as it gets. So the game plan was already there. Montreal was a little bit more of a challenge because, yes, they were a division foe last year, but that felt like 35 years ago. We only played them a couple times, and they were not the same team. They weren't the same team they were in the regular season. I'm sure Pete could attest to that. But what it did do, though, it made us respect them and watching them back in that you could see why they were successful. They're top 4D, and they were playing monster-type minutes. They were big, they were strong, they were nasty. And you could see, now we had some game plans and some analytics where, we just need to keep on them, need to make it hard on them because they would fade in the third. It's just natural with the amount of minutes they had. And analytically, their numbers dropped drastically in the third. What didn't always mean wins and losses, but that was one thing. And then their structure. And then talking with Vegas, talking to some teams that played them, everyone raved about their neutral zone. And they were good. They were above pucks. They were playing the right way. They were connected. There were 5 guys everywhere, and then they would transition really well. You could see their success and why they were good. So, yes, great question, and that was the one that kind of had us spinning. Watching the Vegas series, with Montreal and just in the back of your head prepare. We couldn't figure out if Montreal was that great or Vegas was just playing that poorly. Because Vegas just they laid an egg. Like there's probably that Vegas Colorado series that I was watching. I couldn't wait to turn that on. Like that looked like you talk about a series that looked like the Stanley Cup Finals. And we couldn't figure it out. But then the more you kept watching Montreal, you respected how they play and why they got there. And that was my point to Pete earlier. I don't think that was a fluke. Like you fluke your way through a series here and there. You don't fluke your way to Stanley Cup Finals. And that was a very game opponent.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily mean to degrade my Habs,
Yes.
but they were a totally different team mid-season, and then the sparklers went off and they just started clicking.
Yes.
So that's what I meant. It's like at some point in the season, it's like this is not a Stanley Cup team.
No, I totally agree. I mean, but the person, I think in the world-class goalie, they certainly figured out. They did a heck of a job there.
So, Kissy, the other thing you had just talked about, something that, all the shows that we've done, not just with you, but for us and the Wise Guys, most of the people that we talk to, including myself being a high school coach, college coaches, I say goodbye to a player. He's not coming back to play against me. College coach is saying goodbye to a player. I'm saying goodbye to a player and I'm hoping I can go watch him play in college, but he's not coming back to beat me.
Yes.
What is that like? Guys that you get these emotional bonds with. You just won 2 Stanley Cups with guys, and now they're going to be coming back trying to beat you on another team. That's got to be something. I don't know if I can handle
That's
that.
probably experienced it with Cedric Paquette, who played for Carolina. We loved him as a coach. We loved him. Does a lot of things right. He's heavy. He's strong. He eats pucks. There's some truth to that. I really think that's the professional part of it. And there's the relationships. I listening to the NHL Network today, and guys were talking about Ryan McDonough and how every teammate that's ever had him, you could see the mutual respect. Like that same guy will try to run Ryan McDonough through the boards, but there's still that emotional part of it. And for me, I personally think I've had a lot of success in professional hockey because I came from college where it was a relationship-based approach. It has to be. You have a kid, and you said you have it for 4 years. I'm asking Tyler Bozak and his parents to come to Denver, and it's a lot. It's just different in college. It's all we're with them every day. We're monitoring their school. We're turning them into men. It's just a different relationship. But that's the reality of it. So there's going to be some truth to that. That will be hard. Pete brought up Zach Bogosian, Bogo. That was such an emotional, great run with Zach last year. That would have sucked playing him. Even our guys this year with Toronto. But guys are pros, and it turns into a game. And just like that, it's right back to business.
So I have a question, not directly related to this year's Stanley Cup. It's just a coaching question in general, because I don't really have access to talk to many professional level coaches. When you're coaching at a lower level, you're instructing. You're teaching kids, and then even like you said in college, you're developing these guys to be better players. Once you get to the professional level, how receptive are the players to being coached, to being instructed? I mean, they've reached the top level of play, and they're really good, but do they still listen to the coaches and probably learn some new things even as they're progressing in their professional career?
Yes, and that's it's a little different in the NHL because it's a relationship. Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Vasilevsky, they're going to outlast. They're not going anywhere. They're outlasting the coaches. It's just a reality of it. They don't, it's just a reality of it. It's the business part of it. So you do have to work with them. Any level I've kind of had, you're kind of they need you in a lot of ways. You need them to develop you. They need you to move on, whether I was in college, the lower levels of pro hockey, to move them on to the National Hockey League. But there's twofold that. One, yes, and all the great guys still want to be coached and they still want feedback, but you'd be shocked at how different it is. NHLers need pats on the back. NHLers need kicks in the butts. They lose their confidence that I'll get a text message at 1 a.m. Can we watch video in the morning? And can we talk? If I had a nickel for every time I met one of our certain players at a Starbucks by our house, I wouldn't need to coach anymore. Wow. Like there's just, they go through the same ups and downs and emotions. There's a reality. Even our superstars, they want to be coached. Now they want feedback. They want to know why they're doing it and what they're doing it for. But yes, now the other thing, the second fold in it, this cap era, and I think that's probably why I was attractive to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know that's why Jeff Halpern was attractive. You still have to develop on the fly. You know, back in the day, players could marinate in the American Hockey League longer. But because you need cheap players, because Matthew Joseph's cap hit is this, next year, Boris Tkachuk, Taylor Radish, their cap hit is this, they're going to be playing in the National Hockey League, but they still need to grow. And that's on us as assistants and coaches, where in the past, they might take 1 or 2 more years in the American Hockey League. Now you have to develop them on the fly. Ross Colton was a perfect example this year. We approached Ross a ton differently. Ross got more video. Ross got more one-on-one touches. It's just I felt like I was back with Tony Cirelli 3 years ago. Not that we graduated. We're still working on Tony every day and graduating, but he gets to a certain level where now that energy is into Ross Colton because he's still raw. And it's just a reality of it. So that's a great question. And it's an evolving area of the National Hockey League now.
Somebody asked a question. Come on, Joey.
All right, I'll ask the question.
Okay.
All right. All over the news today is about how the players really enjoyed their boat parade in Tampa, but the what is it? The Stanley Cup has suffered an upper body injury and is out.
There's some truth to that. I will certainly not mention any names, but first of all, it was an unbelievable day yesterday.
I saw pictures.
The first experience of the boat parade was cool, but I think we all kind of, the second period, even our fans, it was a whole new level yesterday. It was an absolute blast. Then we show up, we were going to have the rally in the downtown park, but the storm rolled in, typical Florida. It was literally perfect sunshine all day. And then we're in the middle of a monsoon. So we're in the waiting area, and I give our guys credit. They literally went out in the monsoon for whatever the fans still involved and gave them an experience. They had the cup up. They like Hedman's like, Newsy, is there a microphone? And we finally were like, hey, and they laughed at us. No, the power's out, you ding dongs. There is no microphone.
Speaking of power out.
Wow, that's freaky timing right
there.
there.
That was perfect timing.
Like there's no power. So we're back in the waiting area. It's about 4:30. And one of our players grabs it, not by the traditional bottom top, it kind of bear hugged it, and it went down. And I'm sure it's been dropped in the past. And it's either dropped on its base or its side. But this, unfortunately, got dropped, I think, bowl first. And, and I was a little disappointed that actually a pitcher got out because it was just family and friends in there. And those cup keepers, they jumped right on it. They put a towel over it and they carted it off like a dead body. They take it very, very serious. So I did not see it, but I was literally within a 10-foot. I heard it, and it was a very disturbing sound, and it was a tough moment. And even everyone there, and my daughter almost was in like, oh my God, what happened? I told her, well, they carry little elves everywhere and they just bring it and the little elves get their tools out, then they just fix it. So they sent it right back up to Montreal. The cup is day to day. The word is that it's going to be okay, that they're going to be able to, he's going to be back in motion. So it's interesting. So I was supposed to have my cup day next Wednesday, which would have been the 21st. Zach Bogosian was going to go on Tuesday, the 20th. Obviously, the Geographics, Messina Brazier, knock them both out. And then this morning, we got due to the damage repair scenarios and the cup being emergency lifted to Montreal, we were told it's not going to happen. And I literally 5 minutes before we got on, I got the text, we're back on for Wednesday. So I put a few of my friends through an emotional roller coaster where, you know, I'm just no different. So my teammates live in Arizona, some of my buddies, Colorado, and I was like, they're making plans, and I had to let them know today, sorry, it's off. It's a no-go. What they were going to do, the confirmation we got was, you'll get it before we bring it up to Canada, which geographically makes sense. Bogo and I would be the last stop before it goes to Toronto or Montreal, because I think they want to do it through America first and buy some time on maybe the COVID restrictions up north of the border a little bit. So literally got that text, and now it's right back to, it's a go on Wednesday. We're still ironing out some plans, but I know even Zach and I talked a little bit. 5 to 8 o'clock, it's going to be at the Tri-Town Arena. And that to me that's important. I know I want people to rifle through, but that trophy is so amazing. I remember seeing your eyes when we were on Zoom, your guys' eyes. That trophy is so amazing. I want as many people as possible to experience it. And then because the way Zach's day is going to play out, I don't think he can have it. He's going to have it to the open. So he actually talked about maybe coming to Tri-Town himself and maybe spreading the word. And he literally just texted me. So maybe we'll make that 5 to 8 at the arena. And then I'm like, Zach, people would love to see you and take it to a whole new level.
Oh, heck yeah.
If you stopped in the arena too. So that's the tentative plan. But Wednesday, the 21st, the cup will be in Brazier. The 5 to 8 at the Tri-Town Arena will be the public. But just, it's going to be A to B, and we'll probably end up at the Riverview. But that's what the cup is about. And I'm ecstatic. I like almost the emotional roller coaster. I learned now with the cup, you never know what to expect. The whole new world of it got injured, and it just put everything backwards. But I guess that just grows on the legend of it. And to the credit, it's interesting. I've gotten to know Phil a little bit, and I'm like, well, screw it. Let's just get the replica. And I thought he was going to open hand slap me. He's like, no. He goes, you work your whole life. He goes, we don't, and he was dead serious. He goes, we do not do replicas for the visits. He goes, we'll do replicas for a TV shoot. We'll do the replica that stands in the Hall of Fame. But when you guys get your day and what this is about, you're getting the real thing. So if we're able to get this back healthy, you'll be getting the real deal, which it just amazes me. And it just how passionate they are and how awesome that is, with the cup.
I'm sure they're working on it 24 hours just to get it back up to Dave. And I met Dave today up in Indian Lake. We had to do some things, but we asked the same thing. I said, don't they have a backup? And you just answered that. So
yeah, they don't for the day ofs. There's never been a backup. It's maybe sounds and seems convenient, but it just goes to how important that actual real
yeah. All right, so the big question everybody wants to know is Phil going to be there, or is?
I hope so. I really don't know. They rotate out. Phil's here. They rotate 2 or 3 guys out. I'm really hoping it's Phil. And Phil, we had a couple of days here. And again, he didn't know when our day was. Literally just got approved. He had mentioned maybe even the other two trophies, the Prince of Wales and the Conn Smythe, which again last year was so different and a disappointing we couldn't get the Stanley Cup home. But when I had my party here, we were able to have all three of them there. So I don't know. I said, Phil, that's great. If it can happen, great. But just the cup is what it's all about.
Yeah. And what you mentioned too. So, I mean, I think we've all seen the Stanley Cup in person, but just to see on a Zoom call, to see it in your hands was so much better than seeing the cup in person behind a rope.
100%.
I mean, yeah, to me, it was cool to see the trophy, but to see that trophy in somebody I know's hands, man, that was just, that show we did with you with the cup, that was awesome.
And you'll see when you guys see it and what it's about. It honestly has that aura about it. And even when we bring it around, some of the stories I talked about last year, just the random person being surprised by it or surprising someone with it and what it does. We were fortunate enough the other day, John Cooper, to end the quest for the cup, there was a shot. He has a beach house in Anna Marie Island, and I don't know, but they basically had to bring the cup there to finish off a shot where I think they were probably showing him contemplating our season, and then they fast forward, and now he's at the same spot with the cup. He's got to work on his acting. It took about, it should have been done in 15 minutes, it took about an hour and a half. But we were able to surprise some different establishments with the cup, and the reaction and the people, it's amazing. So I am very excited about experiencing that with my hometown coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll be road tripping, that's for sure. But I'll let that Joey reserve a spot for us down in the corner in the rear wheel so we can set up. So we'll make something happen.
Looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, obviously, Kisser, you won't be the only. 'Cause you're coming home, so now you're Kisser.
Yes, Kisser again.
You won't. You won't be Derek Lalonde, Tampa Bay assistant coach. You're Kisser.
My kids. I would joke to the other day at someone, the Kisser. I'm like, people don't, and he didn't know my name. They knew me as Kisser, and my kids couldn't believe it. Like, they don't even know your name, so God, have some fun.
What I'm trying to say, you won't be the only dignitary. The mayor of Brazier, Richie, will be there.
I want more.
All the smartest people in town are going to be around. So hopefully we can get some interviews, some group interviews. It's going to be awesome to see you.
But you're gonna find out very quick, and this is why the Stanley Cup is the greatest, neatest thing on earth. You're gonna find out very quick, even if Zach, spend some time at the arena. You're gonna find out very quick the true celebrity is that Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah.
We joke all the time, and I think we had a good laugh with Phil. People, and I hope Phil comes because he's the face of it, and everyone recognizes him. And the other guys, Howie, they're Craig, they're phenomenal. They're all phenomenal. They get it, what it's about. But whoever's, they're going to be the true celebrities too. Phil, man, he's such a personality. Just a quick little story. We had the trophy in Anna Marie, and Phil's getting hammered by Stamkos and Hedman and Killorn because they were doing the McGregor-Poirier fight. And they're like, where's the cup? We need it here, a whole party. And Phil is like, it's okay. We'll get it there. And then he literally is like, our operations guy, Ryan Bellick, was with us. And he's like, poor Ryan Bellick has to deal with this all the time. He literally had the empathy of our operations guy. And when he's getting bombarded by absolute superstars, bring us the goddamn cup. You tell those coaches enough's enough. And Phil's just laid back. His personality is amazing.
Well, Kisser, you've never got me a card, present, a text or anything, but you're bringing the cup home on my birthday.
There you go. That's a win right there.
Absolutely.
No, is it really?
It is my birthday next Wednesday, the 21st.
Oh my gosh.
This might be a bad long night.
There's been a couple, Joey, Willie, I can't wait to see the cup, but there's been a couple Canadian fans, and Pete, you're fine. You walked the line nice, but I had a couple text messages I'm not real happy about, literally rooting against us. And it's crazy when I'm like, are you dead serious? And the guy said, yes, I want Montreal to win. It's a dream of mine. Like even Richie was rooting for Derek Lalonde bringing the cup home, not the Montreal Canadiens. But this poor guy he's going to be shut out. His son can come see it, but he's going to be security. This guy's out. So there's a couple of those guys that are on my my hit list.
Hey, job opportunity for a 6'5", 320-pound guy.
We're already in, Dave. We're already going.
Yeah, we're already in.
Muscle.
No, but I'm talking about security to keep the guy out.
No way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I will completely admit to being a bandwagon Lightning fan last year.
Yeah.
This year I was all in.
I appreciate that. And you know what? A lot of our guys, I know we have stars and the world-class goalie and the makeup for our team is great, but our guys, I can't say enough. Like the gamers, the way we eat pucks and the block. I mean, Barclay Goodrow eating Weber's shot, and he blocks it. And if he didn't get that puck, 3 other guys on the way to the net would have blocked that thing. That's just a huge credit to our group, and to me, that's what stands out. How special this group was, and you can talk about the best team in the Cap era. You can put them this, that, whatever. It still comes down to attitude and gamers. Every team that ever wins it, and fortunate enough, we've had a lot of them the last couple of years.
Awesome. Well,
Well,
go ahead, Joe.
Well, Kisser, we've done this so much now. I mean, we can say thanks and all that. It's hard to believe all these conversations that we're going to actually see in person in 8 days, a week from tomorrow, and get to see the cup, and to think that all these chats, it's finally come to fruition. It's going to be awesome. And what you're doing by bringing it home, I know you already know, but the buzz that'll be going around here for the next, I can't wait to get out this weekend, because that's all people are going to be talking about, I'm sure, is that they know it's coming home next Wednesday. So
can't wait. Honestly, full circle to win a Stanley Cup, it was amazing, but not to have that experience, bring it home, and it truly meant to be. And then literally we win a second one in 10 months. And now we can fulfill that dream of bringing it home. It's truly meant to be. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait. I know I'm excited as all hell. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to sleep between now and then.
No, I know. No, I'm cranked up right now, so I'm ready to go. So, yeah.
Well, Kisser, we'll get to work on. I know you're going to be busy that day, but we'll get to work on how we can get 5-10 minutes out of you for a
for
little
sure.
chat.
We'll figure that out, and yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome.
All right, guys.
All right, Derek. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
All right. That's going to be it here tonight on the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show here on ESS, Empire State Sports. For Joey Ream, Dave Brellett, myself, and 2-time Stanley Cup champion assistant coach, Derek Lalonde. Good night, everybody, and stay safe.